All right, guys, we're going to continue talking about the surface area of shapes, three-dimensional shapes. This shape is a triangular prism. All right, a triangular prism is two triangles separated by three rectangles, very similar to a rectangular prism, except for it has triangles on the edges. Because we took away one of the faces, it now has 5 faces versus the 6 faces for a rectangular prism. So we need to find the area of each of these 5 faces and then add it all up. Let's take a look at the first face that we see. This is a triangle, and its formula to find the area of that triangle is base times height divided by 2. If we look at the numbers that we have here, it's 3 and 4. So this is 3 times 4 divided by 2. And that means that the area of this triangle right here is 6 centimeters squared. However, we have another triangle. So we need to make sure that we're also including, if this one's 6, that we're also including this one, and therefore it's technically 12 centimeters squared for the triangles combined. Now let's take a look at shape number 2, which is a rectangle, and the measurements are 5 and 7. And the formula to find the area of a rectangle is base times height. And if we plug those numbers in, it's 5 times 7, and that's going to be 35 centimeters squared. Now, before I move to the next rectangle, I want you to see that this number's in there because it's going to get hidden. So we're going to move to the next rectangle, and the measurements of that rectangle, first of all, we're looking for a base and a height, but the measurements of that rectangle are 4 and 7, because this 7 up here is the same as this side. All right, so our measurements are 7 and 4, and that means that that green rectangle is 28 centimeters squared. And then lastly, that's going to leave us with this rectangle down here on the bottom. This is where things could get a little tricky because there are not any measurements. We don't have one here or here or here. But like we spoke about earlier, because this is 7, then this must be 7. And if that's 7, this must be 7. And then also, if this corner was to fold up, it would have to be the same. So this is also 3, okay, for those to match. So our numbers to fill in for base times height are 7 and 3. And so lastly, that is 21 centimeters squared. And once we have found out all of those numbers, we're just going to add them up. Whoopsie, excuse me. We're just going to add them up, and when we do, the total the total surface area is 96 centimeters squared. All right, let's take a look at one that messes with our brain a little bit. This is also a triangular prism, except for now we're not looking at it as a net. All right, we're not looking at it as a net. We're looking at it as a three-dimensional figure. But if you go back to this other problem back here, they only gave us 4 measurements, and that was plenty enough for us to answer it. And in this case, they're giving us 5 measurements, so it should be plenty enough for us to answer it. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how many faces do we have on a triangular prism. And the answer to that is 5. We have 2 triangles, which are equal, and then we have 3 rectangles. I like to line it out like that on my paper so that I know what I'm looking for. And now that I had this on my paper, I can start looking for what I have. So this first triangle we see right here. And we also know that we have a base and a height because those 2 numbers touch this square. So I can find the area of that rectangle, and it is 12 times 8 divided by 2, or 48 inches squared. Because it is a triangular prism, the triangle in the back is going to be the exact same size. So it's also base times height divided by 2, or 12 times 8 divided by 2, or 48 inches squared. Now, this next part's where it gets a little tricky. We need to find our 3 rectangles. So I'm going to erase what I've got here. And I'm going to try to draw this thing a little bit more three-dimensional so we can see this as we go. So I'm going to try to do like this and do like this. Okay, now let's try to use our brain here and look at the 3 rectangles that we see. The first one that we see and we know is this one, 10 and 14. 10 and 14. Okay, so the base times height of that rectangular prism is 14 and 10, and that's going to be 140 inches squared. So we know that one. Now let's take a look at the one that we see on the bottom. So this is the bottom of our rectangular prism. And if you'll notice, it's also 14 inches as a base or a height, depending on how you look at it. So that one works out for us so far, but now we've got to figure out what the height is. And that is right down here. It's the 12. So we have 14 times 12 to do this bottom face, which is 168 inches squared. And then what that's going to leave us with is this last back rectangular face. Okay? It's on the back side of the triangular prism. And it also is 14 inches from one side to the other side. But its height is 10 inches. And so the base and height of that one is 14 times 10, or 140 inches squared. Pause this and rewind it if you need to take a look at the way it was worked. But I'm going to show you something here that I find to be easier when it comes to the triangular pyramids, or prisms, excuse me, and it works every time. So I'm going to erase this. And if you look, this number right here that separates one triangle from another triangle, okay, is the same as this number up here. It separates one triangle from another triangle. And it's the same as this one right here, because it separates one triangle from another triangle. So it's going to be the same in all 3 of these rectangles, this number that we see. And then our other number is going to be the sides of the triangle, not the height of the triangle. All right, good luck with these. These are the toughest ones we have. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Have a good day.